Hello, everybody. This is your welcome video for Chem 152 Lab at Mesa College for the spring of 2021. I am your host, MC, and tour guide, Rob Fremland. So this is the lab class for Chem 152. This lab is going to meet synchronously every Tuesday at 11:10. And what I'm going to do with this video, other than say, welcome, hope you had a great holiday, and you're safe and healthy and all, is I'm going to go through the syllabus to the course and the website and explain how things are going to roll. And of course, I'll see you on Tuesday the 2nd. So let me go ahead and do that, get started on this. All right, so this is the syllabus for your course, which is also in the module. You'll see it right here, as is this video. All right, so just so you know, this is the companion course for Chem 152 lecture. You should be taking the lecture in the lab at the same college. You don't absolutely have to, but it's very, very helpful if you do them. So the lab goes with the lecture. They're separate courses with separate grades, but they're woven together quite well. So the content in the lecture will play into the lab quite well. If you're at one of our sister colleges, it may or may not take place, but if you were taking the lab and lecture there, they would. All right, so the prerequisites are the same. You can do math, course objectives, you can read for yourself. There is no textbook for the lab. We're giving it to you. So in the old days, and in the future, when we meet face-to-face, you would have to buy a lab manual and a notebook. In this case, it's all going to be given to you in the modules. All right, now, because it is online, you want to definitely have good internet, reliable internet. You're going to need to upload documents. I like them as PDFs, so you need a means to do that. My understanding is there are some free apps on phones that you can do that with, or if you have a scanner. But a lot of the data sheets, you're going to be given a data sheet that you're going to have to fill out and upload that for grading. So you want to be able to do that. A printer is also very helpful. All right, just like in my lecture, my office hours are Mondays and Wednesdays from 10 to 12, Tuesdays and Thursdays from 10 to 11. And they'll be by Zoom, so that's outside of our normal class time. And Zoom, the Zoom link is right here in the syllabus. The password is right there. And there's also a link to the Zoom right here on the campus site. Okay, so make sure you're there. If you need to talk to me at other times, certainly send me an email. Attendance and withdrawal. So you need to be in class on Zoom Tuesdays at 11. We're not going to be there. You don't have to stay that terribly long. I'll explain all that in a little bit. Well, I'll explain it now. So on Tuesdays, we're going to have lab quizzes at 11. The quizzes will be at 11:20. But we officially start at 11:10. I like to do it that way. So if you have questions, then you got 10 minutes that you can ask questions. Then we'll have a quiz. And then after that, it's your time to use as you see fit. You can hang around and ask me questions. You can go, kind of up to you. But I definitely want you there at the beginning because that's when the quizzes will be. And the quizzes are very short and they're over the experiment you're going to do that day. All right, so that's pretty much what you need to do. I want your camera on when you're taking the quiz, but for the rest of the time, you can turn your camera off. But the quizzes are very quick. They're supposed to be 10, 15-minute quizzes. All right, drop date is April 16th. You can read all that stuff yourself. Let me go through the website. So basically, if you look at the website, we've got the welcome video, which you're watching now, but it'll be available. This is the syllabus. This is the link to Zoom. And this is the link to Mesa College Student Services, which they have a lot of stuff available to you, career services, counseling is there, any number of things. So you might want to, certainly check out their website, see what services are available to you. All right, this is an equipment and safety video. Even though you're not working in the lab, you're not going to actually be mixing chemicals. You guys are going to go on, and we're not going to be doing things virtually forever. Hopefully in the fall, it would be nice if we're back face to face. So it's important that you have a feel for the safety aspect of this. So this is pictures of some lab equipment. This is some safety text that we wrote up, and so I want you to read through that. This is American Chemical Society safety video. It's the one that we show in class, and then this is a safety quiz, and I want you to go through this quiz and try to get it done in the next week and submit this quiz. All right, and you need to do that before you can go on. This is just kind of a guide to how things are structured. All right, and then every experiment has its own module. Experiment 1, we decided to break up into 2 weeks. So I'm going to go through how the modules are structured with experiment. Well, just in general, the way the modules are structured is this would be what was in the lab manual. So this section would be the background information that you read before you come to lab. Then if you were if you're actually teaching the class face-to-face, you'd come into lab and I would go through a lecture. That's what the whiteboard video is. Then there's a quiz over the experiment you're going to do that day. These are for data sometimes, or these are videos that my colleague and I made of experimental procedures, and you need to watch those. Sometimes there will be actual data that you have to get from the video, sometimes not. And so that's just going to depend on the experiment. This is a data sheet just to show you what I'm going to show you with experiment 2 because it's going to be a little bit more typical. And then this is what you're going to be graded on. So if we look at experiment 2, it's a little bit more typical. So when you come in, you're going to take a quiz on the experiment for that day. So experiment 2 will be on March 2nd. You should have watched this. You should have read through this. You should have watched the whiteboard video. Then you'll come in and take the quiz. That experiment, you'll notice, isn't due for another week. So that day, what will be due is experiment 1. All right, so each week you take a quiz. So when the day of experiment 2, you have a quiz on experiment 2, experiment 1 will do. When you go down to experiment 3, you'll see you have a quiz on experiment 3, but experiment 2, you see how the quiz experiment 3 is March 9th, experiment 2 is due that day. Experiment 2 is due at the end of what would be our normal class time that day. All right, so you'll come in, you take the quiz. This case, the videos have some data that you need to pull. And then just to show you what this looks like, this is a data sheet. Give it a second to come up. There you go. So you can see in this case, you have to get the data from the video and you'll fill it in here, right? Or you'll pull this number off of here. See mass amount 3. So this number here will go right there. Reading this number, that would go right here. Okay, sometimes it'll be given this way, sometimes it'll be in the video. Then you're going to work up all this data. You want to print this out, fill it in, and you're going to upload it. Sometimes it'll be 5 pages like this, sometimes it'll be much less. It just depends on the experiment. Then, so that's part of it. But if you look at what you're going to actually be graded on, then again, experiment 2 is a little bit more typical, but each experiment's like this. This, if you will, the quiz at the end, it'll say upload the completed data. So that sheet I just showed you would be uploaded here. And see, that's a big chunk of the points. And then these are other questions that you'll answer. All right, so that's how the labs are structured. So each week you'll have a quiz on the lab for that week. And then the previous experiment is due at the end of, I think I have them set to be due at 2:20. Right. So what you can do is you can come in, take the quiz. Let's say it's the experiment 2 week. Take the quiz on experiment 2. You should have experiment 1 mostly done. But if you don't, you can ask me questions and I can help you with it. Or you can work on experiment 2. It's completely up to you. The rest of the time is your time to use as you see fit. I'll typically hang around until 1:30ish or something like that. We start at 11, probably to more like 12:30, until about 12:30. 12:45, something like that. Now, so that's all explained in the syllabus as well. All right. So the quizzes are during the pre-lab quizzes are during the synchronous meetings. All right. Now, grading is going to be the quizzes and the experiments. So the quizzes are 10 points each. I forget how many there are. It says in there, but there also says there's 11. I'm going to throw out 1. The safety quiz is 20 points. That will not be thrown out. So it is part of your grade. All right, so you will take that quiz and it is due. But that one is also not being done synchronously. So you can take the safety quiz at your leisure. All right, then the lab experiments, there's 12 experiments. There's 11 experiments, but I'm going to throw out the lowest. Okay, so there'll only be 10 that will count. Experiments are graded on a 50-point basis. But if you notice, for example, on experiment 2, it adds up to 95 points. You can see here. So how do I make it 50? Well, what I do is I scale it. So you'll get 95, then I go times 50 over 95, and I round it to the closest half. And that's because just different experiments add up to different amounts. Experiment 3 is 76. Experiment 1 is broken into 2 pieces. but it's 43 and 33, so it's 76, right? And so they're just going to add up to different numbers. I scale them to a 50 scale. Right? And that's all explained in here that I made up an example. And then this is basically the, and then what I'll do is I have to put these numbers in Canvas manually. Canvas won't do that for me, but I'll put them in manually. All right. So, and then the grading scale looks like this. Safety quiz is 20 points. The lab quizzes, there are 11 of them. I count the best 10. The lab experiments are 11. I count the best 10. And so that's 620 points. It's a 90, 80, 70 scale. Okay. Disabilities, any disability you have, let me know. I can't do anything if I can't help you. And then the rest of it is good advice, kind of what I said in lecture. So you definitely want to keep up. You definitely want to give yourself some time to get the work done. Ideally, what you should do is you come in, you take the quiz, and then you should work on, ideally you would be finished with the experiment that's due that day. So when you come in to take the quiz for experiment 2, you should be done with experiment 1. So you can cut out, or you can spend the time and you can go through the data and work on experiment 2 because I'm there. All right. Or you can work on, finishing up experiment 1 because experiment 1 is actually due that day. Kind of up to you, but take advantage of the time that I'm around, because I'll be around on Zoom until, like I said, excuse me, about 12:30, and that's a good time for you to ask me questions about things. I'll stay on Zoom until, like I said, about 12:30 or until everybody leaves. So if everyone leaves at 11:30, then I'll leave at 11:30, but I'm willing to stay until 12:30, right? Sometimes longer. All right, reading through the background of the experiment is important. Taking notes. You can help each other out on labs, just not on the pre-lab quizzes. I don't care if you guys work together, but make sure you know the material, all right? Because you're going to go on to Chem 200 and you're going to kind of have a good feel for this stuff. And then please, please, please ask me questions, all right? Don't look up stuff on the internet to help you with this stuff, except for the videos that I've given you. Really just get everything out of the lab manual, which is the background information or the whiteboard videos, right? That's the best place. The internet's going to give you really crazy types of answers. And I can kind of tell when you're getting something that a graduate student wrote. That's pretty much it. So not too much to discuss. It's just the syllabus. And then next Tuesday, February 2nd at 11:10, I'll open up Zoom and just kind of go over some of this stuff again, answer questions. We do not have, do we have a pre-lab quiz that day? I don't think we do. You're supposed to do the safety quiz, right? But that's due on the 9th. We do not have a pre-lab quiz next week. So next week, just kind of a hello, how's it going? And won't keep you terribly long, but I'll be available for questions. All right, so have yourself a good couple of days, and I will see you on February 2nd at 11:10. Take care.